Hey everyone, and welcome to the Natalie Potts podcast. Before we start, if you would like to find out more about how you can build and grow your business, head to the episode notes where you can find a direct link that connects you straight to my WhatsApp. Send me a message and ask me anything related to strategy, sales, mindset, and growing your business. I would love to hear from you. And if you know anyone who needs to hear this episode, be sure to pass it forward. So let's dive in. Sam, welcome to the podcast. It's lovely to have you on. I know this is going to be a great conversation because I've got lots of things to ask you, and it's come at a very timely manner around the launch of your book as well. So let's kick off with an intro from yourself and tell us about what you do with LinkedIn.
Oh, thanks for having me, Natalie. And it's great to be here. So my name is Sam Rathling. I'm a LinkedIn expert. I'm the OG female powerhouse LinkedIn expert. I've been doing this for like 13 years at this point. So when I first started teaching LinkedIn, there were maybe 5 people in the UK that were talking about this subject. Now, of course, it's quite a saturated market, but I've been doing this for a long time. I've actually been on the platform since 2005. I've been doing business development on LinkedIn all that time as well. And I just absolutely love educating and helping small business owners, coaches, consultants, and corporate sales teams as well to really leverage LinkedIn. I track and measure how much business my clients do. And at this point, we're over £168 million generated in new sales from the LinkedIn platform from the people that I've helped. So that's my track record.
That's incredible. And how did the book LinkedIn Outbound come about? Because I've got it, actually I started reading it, but I need to just ask around some of the ideas around how that's come about and then pick up specific bits, because the principles has been great for me to really think about with how I work in my business. So how has that come about?
So I've got 2 books. So one is called Linked Inbound and one is called Linked Outbound. And Linked Inbound, I originally wrote in 2019. There's a new edition that I published last year. And my newest book is called Linked Outbound. So obviously they are focused on different things because there are 2 different ways you can get business on LinkedIn. One is by building your personal brand, having a great profile, putting out great content, and then people coming to you, which is more the inbound way of doing things, which does take a bit longer and it does take time to build an audience and to get people to kind of know who you are and come towards you. The second way you can get business from LinkedIn is by going outbound, which is through outreach and proactively targeting people in your target market and actually going to them to start a conversation and build a relationship. So they're very focused on the 2 different approaches.
And the one I'm really curious about, because it kind of hit with me when I was reading it, was about this idea of the VCO and visibility, but the real part in that about credibility, because I've got a real big thing about it since I've qualified as a coach, did 19 years in corporate myself. And I often think that people don't focus on it enough. They feel a bit maybe overconfident, if it's a bit cocky or arrogant, we're talking about things that what they're great at. And we always know it's potentially really Brits, it's a Brit thing as well, I think, that we don't really talk about what we do really well and our strengths and what we're great at. Where does this fit in as the formula piece with LinkedIn? Is it more profound in the outbound, or how do we do it very well in the inbound as well?
I think it applies to both. So the formula is visibility plus credibility equals opportunity. So you're not going to get business from LinkedIn if you're invisible and in the shadows, right? So if you're just lurking, which a lot of people do on LinkedIn, especially coaches, if you're like a LinkedIn lurker and you're just kind of there, you're watching what's going on, you occasionally like and comment on a couple of things, but you're not like putting yourself out there, you're not going to be visible. Your profile can get you visible as well. Like, people don't realize how keyword searchable their profiles are. So getting visibility and getting lots of profile views and appearing in search appearances is another way to get visible. So unless you're willing to kind of put yourself out there from a content perspective, from a getting active on the newsfeed perspective, like, you're going to be practically invisible. So don't expect business if you're currently sitting there as a LinkedIn lurker and being invisible. The credibility piece is an interesting one. So you've got to come to the platform. Obviously, like, people have to know that you're good at what you do, but there's a difference between kind of boasting and bragging and actually like just being confident about sharing like how good you are. And if you can back it up with results, then it's not boasting or bragging, right? If you're good at what you do, if you have amazing results for your clients, but nobody knows about it, again, you're not going to get business from LinkedIn. So you have to build up this credibility through the way that you post, the way that you engage with other people, the way that you build relationships, how you bring your personal values to the platform as well, because that all builds your credibility. And it doesn't mean you have to constantly be sharing like success stories, or you don't constantly have to be like, you know, bigging yourself up. But I think every interaction you have on the platform is a way and an opportunity for you to build credibility with others.
Yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of the strategy approach to it, because it's one that I used to love when I was in the corporate world. And then doing my own business, I've become very much like, oh, not ready for LinkedIn yet. And it's like there's someone's put this block in front of me, and it's really frustrating because it's like, I know I do Instagram very well. Facebook I can be here or there with, but I'm like, surely it's just a strategy like anything, and it's just approaching it. And I kind of have this outlook because I used to do engagement for used to have a platform called Yammer in corporate. And I used to do engagement for the region. I said, the reality is they just want your downtime. They want you to immerse yourself in a platform and be on there and engage, etc. So what is so different about LinkedIn, and where does some of that ideas, because I can't be the only person that thinks in that way, where does some of that come from in terms of putting people off in getting the most out of the platform?
I think a lot of people see LinkedIn as like the professional, do you know what I mean? Like the professional platform. And they see it as this place where they shouldn't be putting like their, you know, the stuff that they would put on an Instagram or a Facebook. Like there's a lot of people that have this view that if you go sharing the kind of stuff that you would put out on Instagram or Facebook, that's not the way to do LinkedIn. But actually, the type of posts that will do really, really well on the LinkedIn platform and will travel and will get traction are actually the type of posts that you would expect to see on the other social media platforms. So, you know, if I did a session with our clients the other day and called What Do You Champion? And the idea of like what you champion is about what are you most passionate about outside of work? Like what causes, what things do you care about that you can talk about on the LinkedIn newsfeed? And quite often they aren't things that you'd associate with work. So for example, I champion sobriety. I stopped drinking at the beginning of this year, 2023. And I talk a lot about my journey with sobriety. I champion overcoming adversity because I've overcome a lot of adversity, and I share a lot of my personal journey outside of LinkedIn tips, LinkedIn marketing, etc. And I also talk about being a working single mum of 3 kids, 2 of which are neurodiverse. So I talk about stuff that is outside of my work day job on the LinkedIn platform. And actually what that does is it connects me human to human with other people that can resonate with my story and my journey, etc. And it's okay to talk about those kind of things and share the different facets of who you are as a small business owner or as a coach or whatever. Like you can bring all that to the LinkedIn platform. And over the last couple of years, it's kind of become okay to do that versus maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe when you were in corporate, it just wasn't the place that you did that. It was very much a like professional corporate kind of platform, but it's definitely evolved over the last couple of years, and people are bringing all aspects of their life to the platform now. So I think it's okay to do that.
If someone's starting out, and like we said about coaches lurk quite a bit, and I often find that coaches come from the position of loving what they do and it's a passion. They're also not people that just immerse themselves in knowing how important sales is, and sales for me, my business is a massive focus. So I guess I always talk about sales and growing your audience. What things can people do? Because this is where this is really useful for people that listen to the podcast, is to build an audience on LinkedIn and also stop the lurking, like get really clear on what their strategy is. What can they do?
So the first thing I would be encouraging everybody that's listening to do is to do exactly that. You've got to build your audience. Now, the great thing about LinkedIn is versus other platforms is that you can directly invite people to connect with you. So like on Instagram, you can follow others, but there isn't this immediate like, oh, they have to follow me too thing. Like on LinkedIn, you can literally run a search on the free version of LinkedIn in the search bar and go look for job titles of people that you want to work with. So if you're a coach and you're working with like middle management women who are like 40 to 60 years old, whatever it might be, you can go onto the newsfeed and into the search bar and actually go looking for people that fit the profile of your ideal client, and then go reach out to them and ask them to connect with you. Now, it used to be that you had to personalize every single invitation. It was quite a time-consuming thing to do. But currently, as we're recording this, the quickest way to do that is just to hit the connect button and do that multiple times a day. So even if everybody just did that 10 times a day or 20 times a day and just invited 10 or 20 people every day to connect with them, about 50% will accept. So let's say you pushed out 100 invites this week. 50 people new in your network who will fit your target market, and you'd repeat that every single week for the next 3 months, like suddenly you've got, you know, a massively grown audience. Now, they're not all going to do business with you straight away. Of course not. They're not going to go from like not knowing who you are to suddenly wanting to have you as their coach. But you can start to build your audience at speed on the platform without having any connections, without being visible, without putting content out there. So as a step one, I'd be like, that's what everybody should be doing every single day. Like, just set some time aside, 10-15 minutes, and put some connection requests out to people who look like your ideal client. So that would be step one. The second thing to look at is your profile. So think about your profile through the eyes of your ideal client. So think about who you want to work with. Who do you want to coach? What do they look like? What do they care about? What are their pain points? What are their challenges? Your profile needs to really speak to that individual. So it needs to be crystal clear who it is you're working with and what you actually do for them. So your profile needs to be very customer centric and really focused on that, so that if you do go connecting with somebody who is potentially a client for you, that they're going to think, oh yeah, like I want to connect with this person for whatever reason. So your profile needs to look the part. So take a step back from it and really look at it and think, would I connect with myself if I was, you know, that target market? Like, really stand back from it and think about that. And the third thing is start getting visible, like start putting content out there. You've got to get visible on the newsfeed. So when you're building these connections, the good thing about building these connections is for the next 7 to 14 days, you're more likely to show up on their newsfeed because you've had a recent interaction. So if you've recently connected with someone, you'll probably notice this on LinkedIn, but when you connect with somebody new, you'll start seeing their stuff on your newsfeed and vice versa. So if you do all these connections and then you don't post anything, you're invisible to them, versus if you do these connections and let's say you get 50 new people this week in your network, and then you put 3 posts out in the week, those people are likely to see you and they're likely to start seeing you show up in the newsfeed. And it's about this kind of drip feed over time where people start following your content, they start looking at it, and it will be 3-6 months down the line when someone might reach out to you and say, oh, I've been following you on LinkedIn, Natalie, like I'm curious, like, can we have a conversation? So it's not going to be like that immediate, like, oh, I'm going to connect with someone and now I'm going to pitch them and I'm going to get a sale. That's not what social selling is about. You need to spend that time kind of nurturing those connections, and don't expect other people to engage on your posts if you don't engage on other people's posts. So
yeah, I love that. I often say to clients, like, life is like a mirror, right? And if your behaviors are what other behaviors are going to be as well. So if you've got a community and you're not going to set the tone and lead that community, why would anyone do that back?
Exactly. So I think that's another key piece that people miss. And actually, the way that you comment and how you comment on other people's posts can actually lead to business as well and new relationships. So, you know, if somebody comes along and they, I don't know, you see the post of let's say you're coaching CEOs, right? And you see a CEO post something, you could choose to just react to that or just look at it and not do anything with it. Or you could put some kind of really insightful comment underneath that post, which does 2 things. It gives you visibility with the person who created the post. So that CEO might then go take a look at your profile or think, oh, that's an interesting perspective, or like suddenly you're visible with the author of the post. But secondly, every other person who has liked or commented on that post also sees that comment that you've left. So suddenly you've got more eyeballs on your profile, you've got more people reacting, and every comment should be treated like its own piece of content because they are just as important as the post that you're putting out there. I'll give you a good example. So I've got a coach story for you that will probably resonate. So I had a coach, she was working with like CEOs of like 5 to 20 million companies. So quite a high profile kind of, to doing like CEO mentoring and things like that. She had never engaged on the newsfeed. Like, she was posting and she was connecting, but she had never engaged on anyone else's posts. So I gave her this strategy and I said, look, you need to start getting actively commenting on the posts of the people you want to work with.
Yeah.
And sorry, I just need to cough. Hang on. My apologies. So she commented, and quite an insightful comment, on the CEO of a very large UK establishment, probably a little bit out of her normal comfort zone in terms of like the type of person she would go for, like a massive, well-known, organization, I can't say who it is because she's now working with them, but off the back of that comment on the post that she left, which was like probably a couple of paragraphs, she then got an inbox conversation with this CEO going as a direct message. They started having a conversation. Turns out he was actually looking for somebody to work with. She ended up booking a meeting and landing that person as a client, high profile client, like dream client stuff. But she would never have landed that business if she hadn't have been engaging on his posts.
Sure.
That's worth doing.
Yeah. And I guess I hear people like Gary Vee sometimes say we should be posting up to 3 to 5 times a day. Does that level of engagement change how the platform favors you in terms of, like you said, where you're seen on different profiles, etc.?
I mean, first off, that's a bunch of rubbish, that number. Like 3 times a week is good enough for LinkedIn. Like you don't need to be posting 3 to 5 times a day is fine if you've got a massive social media team and people that are just churning out content for you all day long. But let's get real, most of us don't. So as an absolute minimum, 3 times a week is a good enough frequency for you to be posting on the platform. This is not about spending all your time on that at all. But the level of engagement that you use on the platform, like I would be commenting every day, like that's important. Commenting back on people that comment on your posts, but also commenting on other people's, that's a daily habit. Like that's just standard practice. And yes, of course, it increases how many people view your profile, it increases how many inbound connection requests you get, it increases your relationships. Like you build relationships through doing things like that. So LinkedIn is not about selling and pitching, and I think that's what a lot of people perceive it to be, especially coaches, and they get a bit like, it's all salesy, and I don't want to be all icky and like spamming people's inboxes. Like that's not how you get business on LinkedIn. Of course you can build relationships and connect with people, but you need to go to LinkedIn to give, not to get. You need to be there to add value, to to help others, to provide advice, to to be seen as somebody that's like a trusted advisor to to their community of who follows them. And the odd one will want to work with you off the back of you doing that. Like you can never give away too much of your knowledge and expertise on the platform, because people will always still need that kind of level of support and accountability that a coach provides.
When it comes to things like Sales Navigator and the different types of membership you should have, which is the best option to have when you're starting out your business?
Free. When you're starting out and you are like, you don't have money, don't go spending money on stuff that you don't need. Like you can do a lot of things with the free version of LinkedIn. You can get tons of organic reach. And that's why I love LinkedIn for startup businesses and solopreneurs and micro businesses that don't have a lot of money to spend. Like you can still get a post go absolutely viral on LinkedIn without spending a penny. And all the other platforms now are much more pay to play, versus LinkedIn is still the best place to get organic reach on your content. So I would not be considering paying LinkedIn a penny if you're just starting out. You can do 80% of what you need to do with the free version of LinkedIn. Only when you start to get more kind of established and you've got more money coming in, you've got more stability, would I be even thinking about like upgrading to any of the other products that they have. I'm a huge Sales Navigator fan. It's phenomenal, but it's expensive for somebody that's just starting out. So I wouldn't be upgrading until you're in a position financially to do that.
And you'll be a better expert on this than I would ever be. What's your thoughts on things like the AI chatbots or things that I just feel that I go on the platform at times and it is different to Instagram in terms of it feels like it's just, oh, can I just send you this? Oh, I just want to send you this. Oh, have you joined my class? And it's like, why is this a platform where 50% of the messages are really going to get my back up and turn me off? I'm like, I'm going to go on LinkedIn later. And then the next day I do that whole later procrastination thing. Why is that?
I mean, there's a lot of bad advice out there, and a lot of people just see it as a numbers game and a place to like, oh, I can just, because you can direct message, obviously, like anyone you're connected to. I really can't stand the automation, the AI stuff. Like it just drives me insane. And obviously I'm on a bit of a mission to rid the platform of that and rid the platform of bad pitches. I do actually like getting them because I just turn them into business. I just say to the person, hey, how's this approach working out for you? And they're like, oh, what do you mean? We end up having a chat and I'm like, do you think there could be a better way of doing this? So unfortunately, a lot of people do get it wrong. There is a way to do it right. There's, 7 different kind of campaigns that we talk to our clients about that are depending on the outcome of why you're there, because everybody's on LinkedIn for a different reason. So one of the ways that we get a lot of our business is through events, for example. So we put on free webinars about how we help people, and we invite people to those free events through LinkedIn. We find the people that want to attend our events through LinkedIn. But then you'd probably say, well, of course, that's all right for you, Sam, you're a LinkedIn expert. But we've got, 40-50% of our community, like we've got over 300 small businesses in our academy. They're all repeating what we do for all sorts of different types of businesses, and most of them are coaches, consultants, etc. And they're now doing the same that we've done, tried and tested methods, using LinkedIn events, putting them on for free to their target market, getting people show up to them, and then converting clients off the back of it. So if you use free webinars, or if you use events in your business generally, like LinkedIn is a great place to find an audience, get the traffic that you need, and actually get in front of the right types of people. So one type of campaign might be, I'm going to use the inbox to help people and invite them to something that they're going to get value from. For example, I'm not going to directly pitch them. Another method is to give something that they're going to find helpful. So let's say you've got a lead magnet, or you've got something that you give away to help your clients. Like we have 100 content ideas that we give away to people, and people want 100 content ideas, and they go to our link and they download it and they give us their email address in exchange for that. But we do that through the inbox. So we message people, say it's great to connect, and we give them 100 content ideas, a YouTube video about their LinkedIn profile, and something else, can't remember the third thing, but our whole team do it. And it's like the first interaction is, I'm going to help you and give something to you. And that's the first interaction. It's not, I'm going to pitch you something. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what do your clients really need and want? And what would they find super helpful? Because you can message them and you can give them something that they might find useful. And that's how the relationship starts. So that's just 2 examples of how you can use the inbox without going, hey, we're connected. Hey, here's my website. Hey, let's have a chat. Let's have a 15 minutes. Do you know what I mean? It's just, there's lots of different ways that you can interact in the inbox without it being icky and salesy.
You mentioned at the start around the platform being seen as very professional, and I guess for more corporates, etc., and that started to change. How do you think it is for somebody that comes on from a complete opposite perspective, in terms of they don't want to be that and they almost want to be that controversial on there? Does it work for them being that way? And so I went to a talk a couple of months back, and they were saying about, like, as consumers, we dictate what happens on there. And I was kind of like sitting in between. I was like, I understand that perspective and that we can change the narrative and how things are, etc. But if that's the way a platform wants to be perceived and is, does that work for you being that way?
I mean, it's kind of over the last couple of years, it's like it went much less professional, like and suddenly like there was lots of personal posts on there. And then there was this whole thing like 6 months ago, LinkedIn kind of took control of it and started kind of squashing some of that and started kind of repositioning itself. But we've tested everything. Like we put out content all day long for our clients, we put out content ourselves. The posts that still get the most traction and the most visibility and the most reach are still the human stories, the personal stories. That's not going to go away, because behind every LinkedIn profile is a human being. And regardless of whether LinkedIn tries to tell us, oh, we're a more professional platform, don't do this, don't do that, or the whole audience is going, oh, I'm sick of seeing this, or whatever, like they are the posts that will still get the results. So we've not stopped out like how we post and what we post. I think if you can use some kind of emotion, a really strong hook, good imagery, and a good story, like that will still do really, really well on the platform, regardless of whether it's the professional platform or not.
Yeah. And from a bit about like exactly the connection there, who's been your inspiration in your journey? And I guess I'm gonna double fold that with another question here, but where's your passion come from for LinkedIn directly?
Well, I've been using LinkedIn for such a long time. I was in the recruitment industry like way back. So 2001, I found recruitment, just stumbled into it, moved country, couldn't do any other jobs because I spoke no Dutch in Holland, found myself in recruitment. And of course, like when LinkedIn came on the scene, it was a very much a recruitment job heavy kind of platform. Like that's what it existed for. You kind of uploaded your profile as a CV and you used it to find jobs basically. It wasn't the platform it is today. Like since Microsoft took it over in 2016, it's become much more of a B2B kind of sales platform. But back then, like that's why I was using LinkedIn. And I got really good at using it to find candidates and to headhunt and find great talent. And then when I moved to Ireland in 2005, started a business, recruitment again. But I was like, I don't know anyone in this country. Like, I wonder if I can use all the skills I've got on LinkedIn to go find clients. And that's when I really started kind of using it to kind of see if I could do sales on the platform. So I'm just a huge fan of LinkedIn because it's helped me loads. Like, I've built every business that I've ever had, like, through the LinkedIn platform. And it wasn't until 2010 I had grown my recruitment business quite considerably in Ireland. And somebody was running a business conference and they said to me, like, oh, Sam, would you come and share like your story on how you built your recruitment business? And I was like, yeah, sure. How many people? He said, oh, there's going to be about 200 people there. And I literally freaked. I'd never spoken. I'd never been on a big stage before. And I was like, what, you want me up there in front of 200 people? He's like, yeah, your story's amazing. So I went up and did my thing. And I just saw, like, I did about 50% of it on networking online through LinkedIn and about 50% on networking offline and how you can build relationships and how I'd kind of grown my business. And I got this 200-person standing ovation. So all these like light bulbs going off around the room. And I was up there and I was like, oh, this is so cool. This is what I want to do. And I was at the time like running a recruitment business. So I just started kind of, I just got the bug for speaking and training. And like, I just thought, you know, this is what I was probably meant to do, although I was still in the recruitment industry at the time. So I kind of did the whole kind of speaking training thing kind of as a side passion. And then it wasn't until 2016 when I moved back to the UK that I really kind of made LinkedIn my full-time gig. But it was back in 2010 when it kind of all kind of started out, really. So yeah, but I just love it. It's only like, I just love the fact that I can share something and someone can go off and do it, and then it can actually get business. Do you know what I mean? Like real business. And the message me going, you taught me that. And I went off and now I do 2.7 million in my business through LinkedIn because of what you told me. And it's like, that for me is like why I'm so passionate about what I do, because it has a real tangible impact. Like, this isn't just like theory. This is stuff that actually works. And when people properly understand the power of this platform, like, it can transform businesses.
And that's resonated with me hugely. And also from your journey piece around, I did a year out in recruitment and I didn't like recruitment. It was very different from retail corporate. Just a bit. But I needed to do that change. But it was, all of it was on that platform. And you're right, like, everybody we got was through there. And the criteria and level of expertise was very different on the platform. And the engagement was very different. But, and this was a question I was going to ask, is I often say that most of my clients need a patient pill, like they need more patience in their business. And you spoke a bit around, again, like, we can do all of the reach out every day, we could do 50 new connections a week, but we've got to have in the mind what I would say is, like, you're doing the work for 90 days plus down the road, etc., and forever. And do you think that is like underestimated on this platform? People think it's quick results.
People come in, jump in, and I saw a great quote the other day, Usain Bolt quote, and it was like, I trained like 5 years for a 9-second race. And it's like, that is exactly what this is about. Like, social selling is a marathon, not a sprint. And it really does take time. And I think too many people come in, try it for a couple of months, don't get results, and then go somewhere else. And they do that a lot in their business. They flip from one thing to the other, trying and desperately seeking like the magic bullet. And there is no magic bullet. Like, you've got to put in the graft. One of the tools I do like to share with people that they can see on LinkedIn and does give them that kind of instant gratification that they probably are looking for is a tool called the Social Selling Index. And it's a score out of 100 points, and everyone's got one, and it's your LinkedIn kind of social selling score. We can probably put the link in the show notes, but if you go to linkedin.com/sales/SSI, so that's linkedin.com/sales/SSI, you'll get your overall score. And that updates every 24 hours. So you can start doing things on the platform. And let's say your score's 38 today and you're like a lurker, you're not got a high score. It's a score out of 100. You know, in 90 days of consistent effort, we're sorting out your profile, content, engagement, all of those things. You can move the needle on that score from like 38 up to like 70, 75, 80 points. And you're only going to get business if you're up in the kind of 75 plus range. So if someone were to kind of like focus in on their LinkedIn activity and do some of the things I've shared, like get your social selling index, take a picture of it today, as your kind of day one, and then put in the work for the next 90 to 120 days of consistently showing up, posting 3 times a week, building a network, engaging on the news feed, and really like get stuck into those daily habits. Because if you can do that, and then over time, you'll start to see that score go up, which is like, oh, I'm doing something right. Like my score is going in the right direction. But you can't expect to get business from LinkedIn like that. It's, you know, it takes work and effort, just like most things do. And, you know, you can't go from being completely invisible to suddenly like, you know, leads dropping in your inbox every day. That happens for me now because I've spent 13 years like building my brand, and I've got over 30,000 followers, and you know, I'm well known in my industry now. But when I was first starting out, I didn't get, you know, that level of leads coming in. I had to put in the graft. And the easy way to kind of put out content is to just document your journey. Like, what are you up to every day? What are you working on? What are you out there doing? And don't be invisible. Like, you've got to get visible, and then that's how you build that credibility.
I love all of that, and it just makes sense. And actually, what I see from how you share things just in this short 40 minutes is that just stick to what you're doing. Like, you are very specific in LinkedIn, and be really clear on how you help people, put in a graph. There's no magic bullet, be consistent. And that is what gets people results. And I think too many people are so distracted for the next thing. They procrastinate, they fill their diary with stuff that's not important and not actually the right stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where they don't get the results in time. And then they see all these people making it. It's like, well, why am I not doing it? It's like, because you're spreading yourself too thin. You've really got to just focus on the right things and do them very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I call that the shiny object syndrome. You know, I think I always talk about, I use butterfly analogies quite a lot. You can see quite a few butterflies around me for those of you watching this. You know, when you're first starting out, you're like a little egg on a leaf, right? So you're on your own. You don't really have much around you. You're just like this tiny little egg that doesn't really have very much. And then that's kind of like your first year of your business. You're kind of like all kind of feeling like alone, don't really know what to do. And then like your next phase is, I call the hungry caterpillar phase, right? So you turn from an egg into a caterpillar. And that's when you're like consuming, like you're watching everybody, you're listening to podcasts, you're reading book after book after book. You're like hunting for that, like that thing that's going to make you successful. And you're just like consuming all this stuff. You might start seeking some external support, things like that. And then there's usually some phases over that time when you hit like the cocoon, right? You go into this like dark place, you know, things don't go to plan, etc. Like maybe you've gone from a corporate job into being a coach, and suddenly like people around you are kind of like saying, oh, what did you do that for? And you start like getting all this self-doubt and everything else. And the other side of all those kind of bad things and the roller coaster journey of like running a business is, you know, the beautiful butterfly. And the thing about butterflies is they can't see their own wings. Like most people that are running a business and are like just like constantly focusing on like the next thing, like they just don't know how awesome they are, and they can't see their own wings. So it's just this whole thing of like, you've got to go through all of these things, but you've got to stay in your lane. Like, pick a niche, pick a target market, and stick to that. Because once you do that, and once you start to get known for doing that, and you start to build your brand and build your personal brand, and people, you will start to get the other side of it. But you've got to go through a lot to get there. You know, and a lot of people that work on their own, or coaches, consultants, etc. Like, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach. Like, I now have a business that's, you know, that is very successful, and I have a team, and I have, you know, lots of people around me, which is amazing. But I remember being the little egg in 2016. I knew nobody, I had no money, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had massive vision. And I think that's a big part of it, is like, you've got to have massive vision and massive belief that whatever you're aiming for, or whatever you want to achieve in your business is possible. And you've got to put in the graft to get there. Like, there's no shortcut to success. Like, there is absolutely no shortcut. So whatever platform you decide to focus on, I would not be doing like every single platform out there. I'd be like, right, where is my target market hanging out? That's where I need to focus my energy, and that's what I need to learn. So I'd say spend 85% of your time on one platform and master that platform, whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is. Just go master that one. And when you've got that one done, then go figure out the other ones, right? But, you know, I've always focused on LinkedIn, but I've only just recently started YouTube, for example. I should
Yeah.
have done it blooming years ago, but like my YouTube channel is now like cranking, right? But I didn't want to, like you said, spread myself too thinly. I did, because I just knew I wouldn't be able to commit to putting videos out consistently or putting a podcast out or whatever. But I feel like everybody feels like they've got to do all these things, but actually stripping it all back and figuring out what is the most important thing I need to focus on. Because if you spread yourself too thinly and you are just filling your time with all this stuff that quite frankly isn't going to work, then you just need to like really take a step back and go, right, what actually is going to be the thing that's going to make the biggest difference, and then focus your energy there.
Yeah, and I love the point about YouTube. I've recently started mine, but it was like my friend was like, do it. And I was like, I've done a podcast. I remember getting told by my coach years ago, just do a podcast. Procrastinated for about 8 months and then started in May 2020. And then since then you look back and think, I've done an episode every week because I could stay consistent at it. And that's what changes. And now when people say, what do you do about this? What do you do about that? I'm like, go and listen to this podcast, go and listen to that podcast. So, but the point about a YouTube is that I wasn't there yet. I'm like, I'm here. And I think, again, people, just like you said, it's a shiny object syndrome. It's they just want results quick, instant gratification. And it's really about just immersing yourself in what you're doing and getting great at that. And yeah, I think lots of that really resonates with what you've shared. I mentioned around, if I could give anything, it'd probably be patience. What would be one thing you would give clients, or what's one frustration you have of what clients probably don't listen to at times, which happens for all of us?
I think it's I think it is just the outreach part of things. Like people just, you're not going to get business if you're scared to like connect with new people, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you're going to get business from people that know you, you're going to get referrals, but that's a hope strategy. Like hoping that somebody's going to refer you, hoping that someone's going to see a post you've done and going to message you. Like that is not going to give you a consistent flow of leads. So
Yeah.
I think the thing that, because there's so many people that go out there just going, oh, just put some content out and like, and then people will come flooding. Like that is not how it works at all. So I think it's that audience building bit. That's the bit that frustrates me the most, is that it's so easy to do, so quick to do, to put people into your network that could be potential clients. And it's the bit that everybody doesn't do. So they find content sometimes easy. They find engagement and commenting on people. They find those things quite easy. The thing that people procrastinate on is the outbound. Yeah. And that's, I guess, one of the reasons why I wrote Linked Outbound, because it's like not enough people are doing this. Like I work with corporate sales teams, they don't do it enough. I work with business owners, they don't do it enough. I work with coaches and consultants, like they're just scared to reach out to new people. But it's just a human being, right? There was the worst that can happen. Like they'll say no or they'll ignore your message. Like, and don't be scared of it. That's the bit that is your next best client is going to come from that activity. You just don't know who it is yet.
Is that a narrative that we can hold, that there's more haters or people that are going to challenge us because they're seen to be more credible on LinkedIn?
I don't think so. I think, if you know who your target market is and you're connected with those people, it's a professional platform. You're not going to get, you very rarely get the trolling, the hating, unless you've done a very controversial post, which, does work as well. But unless you've done something like really controversial, you don't tend to find the haters, the trollers, like all that stuff that goes on other social media platforms. It doesn't happen on LinkedIn. So I think you just need to treat every profile as a human being and think, find some common ground. Like when you connect with them, like find something on your profile that you can connect with them with. That might be you went to the same university as them. That might be you notice on their profile they're also interested in hiking, or just find something that's just like that common ground piece and add it when you connect with them. Find groups that you can join that have got other people in them. Like find keywords on people's profiles that you can be like, oh yeah, they're interested in that too. And it's just about, it's no different to going into a room full of people at a networking event. All you're trying to do is not pitch people or sell to them or shove your business card in their face. All you're trying to do is start a conversation. And that's the best way to look at LinkedIn. It's like, I need to turn these strangers into friends. And then from that, relationships happen, from that, referrals happen, from that, invitations to podcasts happen, all sorts of stuff happens. It might not be a direct sale, but lots of opportunities will happen once you really start seeing LinkedIn not as this scary place where you don't want to like touch anything or do anything. Actually, just like see it as an online version of networking.
Sure. Love that. Spot on. I kind of had that point where it's just going in my head. I'm like, yes, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. Bringing it all together. So it's been a great conversation. You mentioned you've got YouTube, but where would you like people to connect with you first of all?
Well,
not loads of places.
I love
I'm like,
this
just
question in
one call
podcast.
to action.
I know. So I would definitely say, obviously, connect with me on LinkedIn. But if you do, please mention that you heard me on Natalie's podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Because I get lots of inbound connection requests, and it would be great if you just mentioned like where you heard me speaking. But yeah, LinkedIn definitely. And if you've got questions, like just drop them in. I have lots of free resources on my LinkedIn profile. I've got my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Sam Rathling. And of course the books are actually up at 99p on Kindle at the moment, both of them. So if you're listening in time, you might get them.
There we go.
At that price.
Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
If you liked today's talk, go ahead and hit subscribe and make sure you commit to one thing when you walk away. I really think this is a gift we can all give ourselves. And if you'd like help in growing your business, hit the show notes and find the direct link to me on WhatsApp. Send me your question and I'll get straight back to you. Thank you for your time.